Welcome to the Midlife and Beyond Reinvention. I'm Karen Price. I have a special guest with me today. I'm Shannon Hernandez. And I cannot remember how our paths crossed, but I am so thankful that our paths crossed because Shannon is known as the joy expert. If you need a shot of joy in your business, in your life, Shannon is your joy maker. She is currently running the Joy Money Revolution, and she knows how to bring back joy into your business. So, welcome, Shannon. Yeah. This is a mark that you get if you hire Shannon as a coach. She is a fabulous coach.
Mm.
So today I want to talk about your own midlife and beyond reinvention that you experienced. Your background is teaching.
Mm-hmm.
You were a teacher for how many years?
15 officially.
Hmm. And what led you to lead the teaching profession?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, yeah. So I taught 10 years in Charlotte, North Carolina, and 5 years in Harlem, New York City. And what I realized as I got older and wiser, now I started when I was 21, so I was really young. I left when I was 36, right? But as I got older and wiser, what I realized was the American school system was not for students, teachers, or their parents. Like it is a system that is for churning out robots who believe one way or another, and really just churning out education testing. Like I was in the crux of everyone ditching things that actually were working and going to testing, which even now, 10 years after I've left the career, they're still testing the shit out of people. And it just wasn't joyful anymore. Like the thing that was most joyful for me is when I went in at 8:30, I closed my door, I taught, and I left at 3:15. Like that was joy. And everything else outside of that was just a system that was like crushing the soul of what it meant to learn and have fun, exploring what you're interested in. And so I had to say goodbye to all of that.
What was that moment that you knew you had to leave and that your soul was being crushed and you couldn't do it anymore? Do you have a moment where?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
There was a hurricane actually that came through New York City. It's like this random thing. I wish I could remember the name of that hurricane right now. It's in my book, my first book. But anyway, this hurricane came through and I left the school building in Manhattan. And I left everything there. I left, I was like, oh, these weather people always blow all things out of proportion. We ain't getting a hurricane. And I left and I got on the subway and went back to my home in Brooklyn. I left the papers. I left my planning book. Like I left everything because I was for sure I would be back there tomorrow. But during that week, I call it, it was Hurricane Sandy. During that week, I call it the gift from Sandy, was that I came out of like what I call robot mode. And I didn't have papers to grade. I didn't have a lesson plan book. And I was sitting at home in Brooklyn. And I remember, this makes me cry. I was journaling and I went back a day later and I read what was there. And it said, I deserve to be happy again. And I thought, whoa, like, what is this? Like, what is this screaming at me on this paper? And I highlighted it. And I thought about it a lot, did way more journaling around it. And I had just like lost my joy in a system that didn't care about really people, right? Like really, really care about people and how they learn and the great work teachers do. And that was like my wake up call of coming out of education and saying, I've got to go and do something with this next phase of my life where selfishly, part of it was I will be appreciated for the gifts that I bring to the world, but also where I can find joy again. And it's not just like joy when I'm shut that door for that like 5 hours of that day, because everything outside of that was not happy at
And
all.
did you know what you were going to do next after
Nope.
that revelation that you had? You really didn't have an idea. You just knew that you had to close that chapter of your
Mhm.
life, but you didn't know what the next chapter was going to look like. Take me through that next chapter.
Yeah. So I had a Facebook page. It was kind of new. And I remember getting on there, my personal page, and saying, I'm going to transition. From being a teacher, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Where would I start? And I just asked, like, me, I just ask for what I need, even if I don't even know what I'm asking for. And a whole bunch of people tagged me and said, maybe you should think about a coach, like somebody that helps you change careers or whatever. So that led to me meeting my first coach. Her name is Anastasia. And we worked together for 3 years, and we really worked on a transition out of education and really thinking like, what are my gifts that I can bring right now and make money from? And so I really entered not as a business growth strategist and coach, but as a copywriter and a content writer. Because I had
Right, you love words.
Yeah, love words. I'm a writer, I'm an author, and I helped business owners really understand that their message is the thing that's going to like carry them the farthest. Is people have to understand who you are, what you're about, and how you can help them before they're ever going to buy anything from you, right? So I spent the first few years doing copywriting, and I realized, I built a 6-figure business within the first year of coming out of education. But what I realized is I didn't have time. Like, I was on everyone else's deadlines. They needed sales pages, they needed blogs. Like, I was working all the time trying to get deadlines met. And I was like, well, this isn't joyful. Like, I have the money now, but I don't have the time. So like, I had to re-envision again and get back on a path and say, okay, what does the next iteration look like? And that's really where I am now, is this idea of how do I have the maximum amount of joy, the maximum amount of time, and the maximum amount of money for me in the work that I'm doing. And that's really what I coach around now.
Mhm. And you're passionate about it. It's very easy to see your passion with what you do. And it seems like you have found the formula for that sweet spot that most people are looking for, especially midlife and beyond, when you get to this point in your life where you start to realize, what do I value? What's important to me? What really matters? But you're at a point in your life where you realize your time is very precious. And you don't have time to mess around with things that are not joyful, that you're not passionate about. And you found that formula.
Yeah.
When you think of this word passion, what does it mean to you and how do you define it?
Yeah. This word has been the most elusive word to me for all the years. And the work you do around it is amazing. And I've had to substitute the word for myself, because no matter which way I've tried to find the entry point of passion, it just doesn't land for me. So for me, passion is that joy, that feeling of expansiveness, and that, my word this year is meaningful contribution. Like, I am a meaningful contribution to my clients, to my communities, to myself, to my relationships, and reciprocity is key for me. My communities, my clients, myself, and my relationships are meaningful contribution to me. And this is really where I base my joy from. And you may call that passion, but it's how am I going to get up and every day spread joy and be a meaningful contribution and let others contribute to me in the same way.
When you think of the clients that you've worked with, can you think of someone who would have their own, joy money revolution that just kind of like blew you away?
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like every client. Gosh, I would say, I I mean, every client has a joy money revolution. So first, I think we should just define what that is. So when you have a joy money revolution in your life and in your business, to us, those of us who are in my brand and we're coaching it, you are completely aligned with how much you're working, what you're doing during those working hours, and then your life outside of your business, right? Because businesses can consume you. So joy money revolution is, how do I have so much joy and so much money, but they're not in opposition of each other, like they're working together, it flows, right? And so, you know, I could talk about Connie. She's a recent client success. I've caught up with her last week, and she said, you know, what I really want to do in this next phase of my business is I want to host retreats. And I said, okay, Connie, what's that look like for you? And she's like, well, down the road, this is what it looks like, but I just need to get started. And so I really tell people, as I'm sure you do, Karen, is you've got to start where you are right now. And so for Connie, she lives in Atlanta. This meant that she held a retreat last weekend in her home, and she brought people together. Small setting, intimate. People are craving connection right now. Like it's so needed, and it's been lost even for the introverts. Like you and I are both like, we need to be around people. What's wrong with us? Right?
Our tones.
Yes. So she had this retreat. It was a weekend retreat. People came in, she hosted her house, and that was the joy piece for her. And the money piece that happened was she sold $18,000 in programs from that weekend. And so this is what we call joy money alignment, right? And we often say in this brand, joy first, then the money follows. And it doesn't happen the other way around, no matter how much we want it to. It's very hard to get traction in a business or to have joy in your life if you're focusing on the money first. Like we got to get back to the place of passion and joy first and build from that place.
That is so true. It's so true. No, with so much going on today, you know, so many personal things happening. How do you, especially when you're a business owner, how do you handle the personal part of what goes on in your life versus what's happening in your business? And if the two are in conflict or you're in turmoil at home, how do you balance that and work with that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think we have to remember is we actually don't have two lives. And this persona that we do have two lives, I think trips a lot of people up. And a part of, I think, what people love about what we're doing in Joy Money Revolution is we share it all, right? We share, like you can look at my social media feed and you're going to see the shit shows, the mistakes, the highlights. It's not a curated feed to only show you the good and the highlights, right? And we're really proud of that because we're human at the end of the day, right? We're human. And, you know, I've gone through a lot of transitions in my life with parents and relationships and deaths and spouses, like it happens. But I think when you can tap into your joy, even when it's hard, I call this practical joy. When you can tap into your joy and it's very practical and you can have that thing that you come back to, maybe it's watching that sunset from your hot tub or enjoying that first cup of coffee while the sun rises. These are the things that keep us going more often than not. And they're the things that we overlook. And so, you know, my passion, if you will, at the moment, yes, I'm helping women build amazing businesses, but I also have a book coming out called Practical Joy. And it's this book of how do we access our joy when we feel like we can't, because that is needed. That is needed.
So needed. That's absolutely needed. Yes. I think you hit on it, that a lot of people, when they put something out in social media, it's that front. You know, and people don't see the struggle behind it, the realness, the human emotions that we go through. So they tend to look at somebody and say, oh, wow, they have such a perfect life. But when you live from that place of, being authentic, being real, and really embracing all of the aspects of life in a very truthful manner, I think that's where that joy comes out as well.
Yeah.
So what would you tell someone who midlife and beyond was stuck in, like maybe they don't have money, they feel like they're too old, or they can't change, or the obstacles just look too great in front of them? What would you tell that person if you could sit down with them for a few minutes and really connect with them?
Yeah. So I'm working on, this new body of work. And one of the visuals that I don't have ready yet, but I can explain it, is I want, and even if whoever's listening wanted to actually do this, I think it's powerful. If you take a piece of paper and you draw 10 rows with 9 dots in each row, you've got 90 dots. And we think the average person lives for 90 years, we hope. All right. And you cross out all the dots that have already gone by. It is such a powerful visual for, listen, we only got a limited amount of time here. And are you going to spend time doing what you love, what brings you joy, what your passion is? Or are you going to spend time doing other stuff? Because in my world, none of that other stuff even comes into my radar. Like I am that person now. Like joy is what's ruling the roost around here. And I'm looking at the dots. I'm getting ready to turn 45, April 7th. And I'm like, oh, I got to do another dot. Like I got to take it off. But it's not a place of dread, because I am living in my values. I am living, how I want to be living. Do I have to make tweaks? Yes. Do I fall off track sometimes? Yes. Do I forget why I'm doing what I'm doing? Yes. But at the end of the day, if you have to cross off 45 or 55 dots, and then you cross off maybe the last 10, because who knows if we really have 90 years, if we have those last 10 years, like our full capabilities, right? You see rather quickly, like now is the time to get on with it. Like we got to get on with this now.
And what is the value of having a coach in your life? How does that help people get to that place of joy quicker by working with a coach?
Yeah. Well, I think it would depend on what they're working on. But in this case, like working with Karen is like, how do I find and reconnect to what I'm passionate about, or develop those new passions? That's one. That's like the discovery phase. But then how can a coach help me get results faster? Like, this is why I hire coaches. How will this person help me get results? And often if we hire coaches who are aligned with the thing that we need, right? And we're aligned in personality, like there's got to be some matches there, but you will see that coaches will help you live that life that you have right here. Actually, I don't like the word manifest, but in this case, I'll use it, manifest it and be living it in real life. Like we don't have time to live up here. The dots are being ticked off, people.
If you're thinking about having a coach in your life, we've got some links below for you to consider, and you can reach out to Shannon, you can reach out to me. And before we wrap up, do you have a quote, a mantra, or a lesson that a mentor taught you that you live by?
Well, I have a quote that I live by that I use everywhere. If it ain't joyful, we ain't doing that shit.
Yes, I love that one. So
like joy is the thing.
Don't do it. Think about what brings you joy in your life. All right, Thank you, Shannon, for joining us today. It was really fun being with you.
Thank you so much for having me.